welcome to the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup. We're here at the home of British motorsport, Silverstone GP, for the second time this season so far. We were at the national circuit on the first round, and we're back here on the big boy circuit now. Alongside me, as ever, is Jack Werrell in the commentary booth. Jack, how are we doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much, Jack. And we have got one hell of a night ready for us, because the national circuit, wow, what a race we had. So many changes for the lead, so many changes just up and down the order generally. We've been treated to some oval action at Daytona as well, of course, for round two. We went to what is basically a go-kart track last time out at Tsukuba, and now we're at, like you say, the big boy circuit. We are at the GP circuit, albeit the legacy version. So this is when proper F1 cars, in my opinion, used to race around here. I think this circuit was used right the way up until 2008 almost. And the lap record here, funny enough, is 1 minute 18. I don't quite think we'll be anywhere near that this evening, but I'm sure these guys will give it a good go. And we've got a raft of talent out on circuit, 12 nationalities as well. So we're just going to have no time to breathe. It's going to be such a busy evening.
Yeah, we're just a mere 50 seconds off that lap record at the moment, doing lapping in the 2 minute 10s. For Sander Ware, who's top of the timing tower in practice so far. And of course, we've only got a couple of minutes, and then we're pretty much straight into qualifying, aren't we? And then we've got basically a 30-minute race here this evening, as is per usual with the Sunday Drivers Club. And well, it's my first season broadcasting this with you, Jack, but it's certainly been a baptism of fire, hasn't it? There's been action everywhere you look, and there's been a bit of bumping and barging in classic MX-5 action.
Yeah, that seems to be the way to drive these things. You can drive it as smoothly and as safely as possible, but at the end of the day, you've got to drive it like a touring car. You've got to get your elbows out, because the moment you're caught napping, you're going to get a bit of a nudge, maybe a bump and run into a corner, and you're only going to find yourself going backwards. So you need to know the width of your car and go for the gaps that you know are just about big enough, and if it isn't big enough, make the room. These drivers have spent seasons together, and they've built up different sort of love-hate relationships with each other. We've got so many rivalries out on circuit. Most of them, funnily enough, are inter-team rivalries. The H20 esports cars and the SimTech cars all seem to get in on the mix, just battling each other, and that's what makes the Sunday Drivers Cup so unique, because everyone's got the same piece of machinery to work with. It's just how they drive it and how they can work with their teammates. And if they're running solo, they're going to have a very, very busy job just to fend off the crowd of cars behind them.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, so far at the moment, the leading driver, not only in the H20 esports team, but overall in practice, like I mentioned before, is actually Sander Ware, who is our correspondent, isn't he, for the Sunday Drivers Club. So it's nice to see him on top. But his teammate, Javier Lopez, is not far behind either.
No, it seems like the teammates, they've obviously spent a lot of time out on circuit together, using each other and to learn the track almost. You can see both the Borst, Patrick Borst and Sander Borst for iRacing Netherlands, currently in P2 and P3 provisionally, of course, in this practice session. And you tend to see that teammates, they come in groups of twos. They all seem to group together. James Austin and Mark Armstrong, both for Armstrong Racing, 20th and 21st, they all seem to group together, which just shows how close this field is going to be during the race.
Yeah, indeed. Only six. Well, the interval between the likes of Sander Ware, Patrick Borst, Sander Borst, Chaz Draycott, Roberto Campos. We're talking hundredths of a second, and on a track that is as long as Silverstone GP. The legacy, or even the updated version, is staggering, to be honest, because a lot of the time we see those sort of fine margins around tracks like Brands Hatch GP. And even the Silverstone National, or the other sort of shorter circuit as well, the international circuit. So the fact that we've got this closer racing, in fact, the biggest gap I can currently see out there at the moment is the gap between Svetanov and Peter Reed at 15th and 16th, 8 tenths of a second. Apart from that, we're talking 0.01 seconds between a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, it seems like everybody just gets closer and closer and closer every week, and that shows in the championship standings as well, because we've got so many drivers all grouped together. For example, if we get the championship standings up on screen, we've got Roberto Garcia leading the way, of course, winning last time out, with a questionable move, I think, has gone around the paddock for him to take the lead, but he is up at the front, 10 points clear of Luis Correa on 68 points, and it's Ben Hicks on 64, Sander Borst on 60, Chaz Draycott rounds out of the top 5 on 59, and you see how close the field is back from that. Ashley Gafael and Dan Mould both tied on 48 points. Michael Ellett and Patrick Borst, only 1 point separating the pair of them. We've got, for example, Tyler Reeves and Victor Oliveira both tied on 22. Xavier Lopez and Jordan Svetinov both on 18. There's so many drivers all grouped together. Sander Ware, Dave Geddes and Rob Jackson, all 3 drivers on 10 points. So it shows that any little marginal gain that you can get from the championship and get from the track and get from the car, any sort of advantage you can gain will really pay dividend when it comes to the championship standings.
Yeah, it's close for a reason, and that's why we love these MX-5 action. But in fact, we can not only have a look at the individual championship that we're currently seeing, we can actually have a look at as well of the team championship. So by the looks of it, fast cars go bang at top of the timing, and there's a bit bigger of a gap here, Jack, isn't there? 91 points back to iRacing Netherlands.
Yeah, it seems like that. It's almost safety in numbers in this championship. If you can group together, it's not necessarily about getting all the podiums and getting everything you can, getting all the fastest laps. Just consistency seems to be the way to go in this championship. For example, fast cars go bang. Of course, Ben Hicks won at Daytona, which will have massively helped him and his team's championship efforts. But look how far clear they are. Almost over 20 points, 18 points clear of iRacing Netherlands. There are only 2 points ahead of Hispania Racing. And then you've got Ignia Motorsports, Simtech Racing, SRL, Armstrong Racing, Zancho Racing. And I just want to put that into perspective. Zancho Racing is a one-driver effort. So of course, our commentary friend here at Sim Racers World TV, Chaz Draycott, he is the only driver for Zancho Racing. And to put that also into perspective with Simtech Racing Silver, I think they've even got 3 drivers in that car. So it just shows being consistent and being consistently up at the top, which is what Chaz has been, it's really starting to pay off.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, I think we can probably go back live to see some of our drivers just in practice, because I just want to highlight 1 or 2 things. Obviously, as commentators and the motorsport fans the world over have been shocked by news of the passing of the late, great Murray Walker. And, well, Chaz Draycott is sporting a livery that I'm trying to get a good angle of here, just to sort of pay homage. And obviously, we as commentators pay our respects, and broadcasters here at Sim Racers World, I'm sure everybody involved in the racing and in the comments can extend just how sort of sorry the world is to see him go. But Jack, he was a great man, and although we got a race to focus on here today, it's always nice to share a few words, isn't it, about such a legend of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you weren't watching yesterday's stream, it really started to show how much Murray Walker meant to Chaz and Ed, and I feel the same for the rest of the commentary community and any motorsport fan, anybody who even watched a Formula One race. His voice is so recognisable, and to have that taken away from us is such a shame. And I'm sure his legacy will live on without any doubt, and I'm sure he will have corners named after him and everything like that, because it wasn't just motorsport that he affected, it was just the sporting community globally he massively affected, and it's yeah, like I say, it's such a shame to see him go, but what a life he led. I mean, he's got nothing to be ashamed of, and he's inspired so many young people to get into motorsport and commentary and just sports in general. So he really did do a hell of a lot for everybody involved.
He definitely did, yeah. But obviously, I hope everybody appreciates the thoughts and the time we've taken to say goodbye to him here on Sim Racers World. But obviously, we do have a race here for the Sunday Drivers' Championship. So let's sort of get back to it a little bit. Obviously, we've been focused on Chaz here. He's in 5th place at the moment for Zancho, and as you say, he's almost flying solo in this championship, which shows how well he's doing. And Roberto Garcia Campos in the Hispania racing car, he's actually hunkered up behind Chaz, and there was a little bit of this going on at Tsukuba, wasn't there? But it wasn't quite as friendly maybe as trying to tow each other around. Yeah,
there was when I said drive it like a touring car, I think Roberto Garcia took it very literally, and did end up trading a bit of paint with Chaz in the closing stages of the race. Eventually that decided who the race winner was, and I've got a feeling there's obviously the underlying feeling of dread that these two are going to come together again, but you know that if it happened last race, it might happen this race, but it could be the opposite way around. It could be with different drivers. So at the end of the day, it's just the nature and the complexion of this championship. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, actually, because it's a much quicker circuit. It's a completely different characteristic compared to Tsukuba, which, like we said last week, Jack, it's basically a go-kart track. Here it's flat out for so much of the circuit, high fuel consumption. The tyres might start to let go as well, because while it is such a wide circuit, a lot of the corners, it's all about momentum. And if you scrub the tyres, you will start to slow down, but you'll also wear the tyres away. And if you find that fine point in the car and in the tyres performance where you can just keep the right amount of speed, you're still going very quickly and trying to go around the corner just as quick as the cars in front. You've got draft to think about, you've got strategy to think about. It's going to be, I can't stress it enough, it's going to be such a busy race for everyone, and the drivers have got so much to think about as well, while also battling, 25 cars?
Yeah, I mean, we see it constantly, don't we? If the top two are maybe half a second apart, you can put a lot of monies on the fact that if we go 10 cars down to maybe a fight for the top 12, or a fight for the top 18, or even a fight for the top 25, you know, there is going to be a race that is within hundredths of a second, and they're pretty much going to be side by side, and probably given a little bit of door bashing as well, in true touring car nature. And in fact, today we actually have 33 cars with us. Looks like 32 have set a lap in practice so far, but we do have 31 in the session, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they all crack on. In fact, one of the drivers that is quite uncharacteristically far down the timing tower is actually René Vere, isn't he? He's only done nearly 2.5 laps now, so it's maybe not that surprising that he's slower than a few drivers who have done over 10 and 15, but the fact that he's out here down in 31st shows the strength of this field.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not like being right the way down there is bad by any means, because it's only 3 seconds, and on a circuit that's 5 kilometers long, in a car with very little power, only 180 brake horsepower and 151 pound-foot of torque, or 205 newton meters if you go off that measurement. But yeah, you're left with very little performance for a very light car on a very long and wide circuit. 3 seconds is nothing at all, or 4 seconds in theory is nothing at all to the leader. So it makes you wonder. Oh, sorry, it's 8 seconds to the leader, just 3 seconds from the car in front. It makes you wonder what René is planning. Maybe sandbagging slightly, or maybe he just hasn't been able to piece a lap together. We'll see what he does this time by. He set personal best sectors in 1 and 4. So we'll see what whether he improves this time by. But I'm just curious. Yeah, like you say, he's out of position. We don't normally see him this far down the order. But knowing René and H20 Esports, they've always got a plan up their sleeve. They'll work together and get their way up the order.
Yeah, they will for sure. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, the top 10 separated by slightly over 0.5 of a second, half a second basically. And the likes of Catherwood to Lovesey, obviously just 100th of a second. And realistically, actually, probably a more shocking stat from that point of view is actually the top 6 separated by just less than 0.2 of a second, down to Kavisto, who is a driver that we don't necessarily always see at the top end of at the sort of timing tower. I don't remember shouting his name out too often, but he seems at Silverstone to have something hooked up here. Maybe a little bit of slipstreaming with his teammates is helping that cause.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers, you see bits of him every now and then, and he's got the potential and he's got the pace for really good finishing results. That was almost a bit of contact there going into the chicane. But yeah, we saw in last season he had the potential for the really good results. This season has brought a different challenge to him in simulation racing leagues. So it just shows that if you're confident at one circuit and you spend a bit more seat time in the car, it will really start to pay off come the race. Of course, there's the 3-week break, so plenty of time to acclimatise yourself with the car and the circuit that is going to be next up on the calendar. And it seems like Kavisto, like you say, this is the combo that works for him.
It is indeed, yeah. Speaking of the calendar, I mean, we're off to Summit Point next, aren't we? I was going to say next week. I'm so used to these season and championships that I commentate on being week after week, but of course we have to painfully wait 2 weekends before we get cracking with another Sunday Drivers Club. And as I said, they're off to Summit Point, which I'm sure will be very exciting. And then the one after that, so that's round 5, and then we go to round 6, the Charlotte Roval. I think it's safe to say, Jack, that splits opinion, doesn't it? On the sort of whether it's a good circuit or not. It's one of the circuits that you get for free when you sign up for iRacing, and obviously you get the MX-5 for free. So pretty much everyone who has ever driven an MX-5 has driven around the Charlotte Roval. but I haven't yet met someone who really says, yeah, that's my favourite circuit. I can't wait to go to the Charlotte Roval.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's one of the Marmite circuits. You love it or you hate it, and you tend to find that if somebody likes the Charlotte Roval, they tend to be quick elsewhere. So we've got to almost cast our minds back just to what 6 weeks ago now, Jesus, to Daytona when we raced on the road course there. It's not a massively similar circuit, but the complexion and the build of the circuit is very, very similar. So I think we'll find whoever was quick in round 2 will be quick in round 6. So it's one of those circuits. I think it will be rather hectic because the walls creep up on you very, very quickly, and they're not soft. They're not soft walls by any means. It's just straight to concrete, and with the undulation changes and the high sausage curbs and trying to fit, we could end up with what 35, 40 cars all trying to get through that infield section of the circuit. It's going to be eventful, I think, is the way to put it.
It definitely will be eventful, and if anybody's out there wondering, oh, well, who will be quick, who was quick at Daytona? Pretty much everyone was quick at Daytona. If you haven't caught it, if you didn't watch it live, then I thoroughly recommend you do a little bit of a shift over to have a look at that straight after, obviously, this broadcast. You've got to keep it peeled to this broadcast as well. But, have a look over whether you're on Sunday Drivers Club or the Sim Racers World TV, YouTube or Facebook page or Twitch. Have a look back at Daytona, because it was absolutely smashing race, and I mean that quite literally when it got down to the final lap as well. A little bit of a spoiler in that. Hopefully we won't have any of that sort of nonsense here today, but as the drivers starting to get back out on the circuit, we can start having a look at maybe some qualifying times. Now, we do have a quite useful statistic here that the Sunday drivers, in fact, put up on their Facebook page not too recently, and in fact, it shows us who on earth has had the most pole positions since starting the Sunday Drivers Club. So, Jack, I think you can have a little bit of a chat through it, because you know the drivers a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, so Louis Correa at the top of the all-time pole positions leaderboard with 7, and that I think a lot of those were actually last season. He really started to come out of his shell and show his true potential in the MX-5 Cup car, and it really started to pay off as well. Of course, with many a win as well. Bram Class sat there in second, so 3 pole positions back from Louis Correa. Then we get to René Ware and Sander Ware, the brothers, both on 3. Then it's Michael Elliott and Dan Mould and Roberto Garcia, 2 of which are SRL drivers, both sat there on 2. Then it's Joe Kivani, Martin Pereiro and Dean Catherwood all on 1, and I'm sure the list could go on forever with the drivers that have picked up 1 pole position, because of course we've mentioned a couple of the tracks, and some of them are very draft dependent, some of them are very teammate dependent. So occasionally we see almost a driver that we don't necessarily see at the points end of the field come away with not necessarily a lucky pole position, but a calculated pole position, and that just then brings in the factor of the unknown once again into the Sunday Drivers Cup series. So it's one of them things. Pole position is only decided literally at the end of the qualifying session, because even though somebody could have put it on pole or provisional pole position at the very start of the session, we've got 15 minutes of qualifying here at Silverstone this evening, and qualifying could be settled on the 14th minute of the 59nd second.
Yeah, absolutely could, which is one of the reasons why we absolutely love it, isn't it? And to be fair, it's worth shouting out as well. It's not just the Sunday drivers that give us brilliant racing in MX-5s. MX-5 generally is a brilliant car to learn your craft in, isn't it? And I know it's some people almost overlook it sometimes because it is the first car, or one of the first cars you get with iRacing. So people often think, oh, okay, I'll just get my rookie license out the way in the MX-5s, and I'll bump myself up to GT3s, and that's where the real action is and stuff. And yeah, when you come to endurance championships and stuff like that, GT3s, GT4s, LMP cars, they're the ones you sort of want to be around. But I think there's something to be said, isn't there, for jumping in an MX-5 every 3 weeks, like the Sunday drivers, thrashing it around some fantastic circuits with some good people and having a laugh, and obviously trying to be as competitive as possible, but just enjoying your driving as well. I think sometimes us sim racers, we can get a bit fixed on being overly competitive in the best car with the best setup, and we almost forget why on earth we logged on in the first place.
Yeah, 100%. It's got a real club feel about it, the Sunday Drivers' Cup series, and I think, yeah, like you say, we do overlook the Mazda because it really is a great platform to work off because you can learn the basics of setup changes and how it affects the car and how the car moves underneath you, and then how to control it if, for example, you break into oversteer or understeer, and it really does. Yeah, like you say, you learn your craft in the in the MX-5, and it's great to see such a huge grid. And it does show there is a vast community of drivers out there willing to put the time into the Mazda, even though, like you say, they could go on to GT3s, GTEs, and beyond. The Mazda MX-5 is still, at the end of the day, what we all love to come back to because it is just it's simplistic almost. It's a very basic car, and it's not massively complex, but it's still great fun. And when you've got up to 40 of them all tearing around, and it's such an even field, like you say, sometimes I would rather watch just 10 minutes of Mazda MX-5s than a couple of hours of GTs.
I think it's raw, isn't it? That's probably the best word I can think to describe it. It's just raw racing, like you mentioned before. There's not much between these drivers, like smashing pole position time out. It's not like they've got the best setup with a slightly, overly powerful car in terms of the balance of power. It's not like there's 5 different kinds of machine running around there. It's literally everybody's got the same machinery, and it's the drivers who really make a difference. And you can pull out an absolute flying lap out of somewhere when you've really hooked the car up, or you can have an absolute stinker because the car isn't quite in the place you want it to be. And it's all down to how you warm the tyres up, how you warm the car up, and how you get into the rhythm of it all. Because, I mean, it's all about momentum in these cars. At the moment, Chaz Draycott has put it on pole position, but we have only had, realistically, 1 flying lap. So we can't read too much into it, but he is already into the 2-minute 10. So thanks to the fact that the Silverstone circuit is so long, it actually only really takes 1 out lap, doesn't it, to get the car all warmed up and ready to go for the first flying lap. So we are already into the 2-minute 10s, and we are already about half a tenth away from each other between Chaz and Patrick Borst.
Yeah, it shows that even with 1 lap of warming the car up and getting back into the car after practice, you've got 2 minutes to think about what you're going to do. Are you going to slow down slightly, get a car in front of you, and then utilise the draft coming off that? Or are you going to get in some clean air, get that banker lap in, and do what Chaz has done, put it on provisional pole position? And then you've got that base to work from for the rest of the session, knowing full well you have that lap in the bank. And if that is the lap that you have to settle for, you're more than happy with it. And at the moment, Chaz is, like you say, only half a tenth quicker than Patrick Borst, but half a tenth in these little Mazdas is more easily lost than found. And Chaz is making that clean air work for him. We're seeing a raft of drivers slowly start to improve upon their times. Michael Elliott, Andy Lovesey, 2 of which did so on the last lap, and that is just what you've got to expect because the car will get lighter, it will get up to temperature, and you'll carry the momentum. You tend to find coming off a fast lap, you set a fast lap, and Chaz has just proved me right there. 2:10.355 keeps him on provisional pole position, extends that pole margin by quite the distance. Now 2 tenths clear of Patrick Borst. Currently looking at Ashley Gaffale here. He's got a right view in front of him, haven't he? We're supposed to wait for the race, and they're even showing it off in qualifying. There's almost 3. There is 3 cars involved. Almost 4 going across the grass now, and it just shows we're not even at the race yet. We've still got half of qualifying to go, and they're already getting their elbows out.
Yeah, I thought I'd maybe just slide away from that, obviously, because it's qualifying. We're not supposed to be hitting each other yet, boys. Keep it for the race. Dean Catherwood's actually, the reason why I've jumped to Dean is because he actually put in a green sector 1 and then a purple sector 2. So Catherwood's not satisfied with top 6. He wants to fight for that top 5 position. Unfortunately, his sector 3, I think he's just caught out a little bit. So as he's going to come across the line on the national pitch straight, we'll have a look. In fact, no, actually, it's caught me out there slightly. With the legacy, I'm less familiar with the legacy Silverstone circuit than I am with the new one, I have to be honest. And that one caught me out a little bit. So Dean, it still has potential, but to potentially get his way up the order slightly. He's only 0.02 of a second between Sander Ware and behind Roberto Campos. He's only half a tenth, so it's a ridiculously close margin. Just even fourth to sixth, 400th of a second.
Yeah, it just shows how close the field is, and like we said, it's what, a 5 kilometer circuit, 3.2 miles, and to be within that margin. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen now how close everybody is in this qualifying session, and it just puts bay to how close the field is. And we've got a raft of talent, a raft of experience in these cars, and they still just get so close. Dean Catherwood crossing the line now. Does he improve upon his time? He does very slightly. He posts a 2:10.692. Andy Lovesey, Ben Hicks jumping up the order with the draft assistants. Look how close they are apart. 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, that is absolutely stunning, isn't it? I mean, my timing tower that we have for commentators can't even register how close that is. It's stunning. And in fact, Andrew Lovesey is not that far ahead of him either, and Patrick Ball. So these three drivers, second to fourth, are so ridiculously close, and we'll try and bring you up the best times that they've done so far, just to see how close that is to the third, well, to the thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it's just so close between everybody. You can just see, yeah, look, Andy Lovesey, Ben Hicks, there's 1,000th in it, and we look even further down the times. And for example, if we just pick that one there, the top 17 separated by 2 seconds, and that is just so close. Sander Borst, however, has decided to go against the grain and go quicker than Andy Lovesey and Ben Hicks, brings Chaz's provisional pole margin down to just over 1/10 of a second after Sander posted a 2:10.426, and it just shows how close everybody is. Chaz is still in the pit lane. If he leaves the pit lane now, he will just about get another lap in, because of course it is that 2-minute out lap. So it'll be interesting to see what Chaz does heading into the latter stages of the session. This is Joseph Kivani, currently in provisional P12, not far away at all from Ashley Gaffale, about a 10th clear to Matt Tempest behind his SimTech teammate. So possibly some team rivalry going on there. But in the race, if you've got a teammate alongside you, it's really gonna help you when you're trying to get through some traffic.
It certainly is. And Javier Lopez, this is uncharacteristic for him, being in 30th place, isn't it, realistically? He's only set 2:22, 12 seconds off the pace so far. I can tell you that he's almost completing his 4th lap. So whether or not he's had some corner cutting, maybe he was involved in that incident that we saw earlier on, although I don't think I saw an H20 car going through Beckett sideways. So I'm not entirely sure what's happened to Javier Lopez, but we're just going to keep on board with him at the moment, because I think he's been setting some green sector times. Let's see if he can pull a time out of the bag and maybe hitch his way up towards the top 20, because he desperately needs an improvement here.
He does indeed, and let's hope that, like you say, he can get that improvement on this lap. So he crosses the line now. He's got the potential for another couple of laps. He does improve post to 2:11.805, puts him up to provisional P16, which still for Xavi Lopez is quite a way off the mark. But if he was coming off a slow lap, it might not help the next one. However, he does run very wide out of turn 1, and just like that, you've then got a 2:10 wait until you can go and have another go, because if you ruin it on the first corner, pick up that 1x, pick up that off-track point, you cannot allow this lap to go on the board. So annoyingly, Xavi Lopez has got quite the wait until he can have another crack at the lap.
Yeah, it's the big problem, isn't it, with when you have a long circuit. The worst one I always find is Spa. When you go up Eau Rouge and cut the lap, you have to then drive for about another 2 or 3 minutes, depending on the car, to get back to start another lap. And when you've only got 15-minute qualifying, that can absolutely cripple you and cripple your rhythm as well, and sort of get into your head all of a sudden. You maybe don't push as hard in the next lap, so then you sort of got to build your confidence up again. So it's almost 2 laps ruined, isn't it? I mean, obviously the best drivers, they can just get their head down, forget about it, and crack on. But I certainly am not one of them. Mackenzie Mann has posted 2 green sectors. So let's see if he's going to improve and potentially move his way up, maybe getting towards the 2:12s. He's in the 2:14.5 at the moment. And Mackenzie Mann comes across the line. He doesn't set an improvement in the end, so it wasn't an improvement. It was actually a full half a second off where he was hoping to be. And I have to say, the top 5 are all in the pits, Jack. I don't think they're going to be hoping to set a better lap time. But our, championship leader has just set a 3rd sector, being purple.
Yeah, so the last lap was marginally quicker in a couple of stages. However, he is going on to what will be his final lap of this session. He will be allowed to finish the lap, even though the time will tick away. And we know how quick Roberto Garcia is. Like you say, he is the driver up at the top of the standings. He did win last time out at Tsukuba. Let's see what he does this time through Sector 1. Does he improve upon his Sector 1 time? I don't think he did that time through. But then, like you said, he did set that purple Sector 3, and he set a personal best Sector 2, so he will be carrying that confidence into this lap. Here is Mark Armstrong crossing the line now. Does he improve upon his time? No, he doesn't. Quite a way off what his fastest lap time was at the moment, almost 1.5 seconds slower. Peter Reid does improve very slightly. Isn't a change for provisional position in the qualifying session. Ben Hicks flashing in and out of the pit lane, maybe just doing a few practice starts. And of course, that's something we haven't mentioned. The start around here is going to be so key, because if you are the lead driver, you've got the hanger straight on the way, and that is going to be a draft fest for everybody involved. So you may enter the hanger straight in first place, but you could end up at the other side in 5th place. So getting your start right is more important than anything, really. You've got to decide, do you want to build that gap and then be safe by the time you get to the end of the hanger straight, or do you want to drop back so you've got a car in front of you and then you will have that draft assistance? It's just such a fine balancing act in this series.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and that's why I would probably wager that Chaz Draycott, obviously at the top of the times at the moment, and probably stay there, because it doesn't look like anybody's really going to challenge with any purple sectors coming in. But he's probably quite happy with pole, but he'll know full well that you know, it doesn't really mean that much once you get onto the first lap, does it? I mean, you obviously have to get off the line. That's one hurdle you have to get over. And then you're right, the hanger's straight. Well, there's plenty of straights and plenty of overtaking opportunities here at Silverstone. And 2/10 off is Garcia's final lap. So it won't be an improvement for him this time round. Cali Cavisto looks like he's going very... well, sorry, I thought he was the one going wide, but actually I think he's used some slipstream to his advantage. But that's why I don't think Chaz will be overly over the moon, basically, for his pole position, because he'll know full well that the times are so close. He's got a right good race on his hand. We'll take this opportunity as well to say hello to everyone in the chat. We haven't done that yet, Jack, which is criminal. So hello everybody in the chat. It's nice to have you along, guys. And I hope you guys enjoy the driving that we're going to witness this evening. It's going to be really good fun.
It will be indeed. And I've just noticed we do have Dan McCauley in chat. I just sent him a quick message. He is Chaz's spotter this evening. He has been since the start of the season. And Chaz does really speak very highly of Dan's spotting capabilities. Lets him know everything that's going on around him. So it sounds like Dan has given Chaz a bit of a talking to. Maybe not too happy with him this evening. However, he really should be happy with him, because look at that pole position he has secured, not by a huge margin around here, 0.07 of a second. And if you're just looking down the order, it's so close. We're currently looking at Pedro Marimon Cladera across the line. He is 2 seconds off pole position, but he's in 20th place. So 2 seconds separating the top 20. We are in for one hell of a race.
We are indeed, yeah. We'll just shoot ourselves back to the pit lane until the grid is ready. We just got a few drivers trying to improve, but they don't look like they've set in any green sectors at the moment. So we're just waiting for them to spawn back into the pits before we can go racing finally, which is a lovely shot in the background there of the British Racing Drivers Club, the BRDC, obviously homed at Silverstone. And obviously we're having a shoot through some of the scenic action, but like I said before, hello to everybody watching. Awesome to have you along. If you want to give a smash on the like or follow or subscribe wherever you are watching this, whether it be the Facebook of the Sunday Drivers Cup, or whether it be Sim Racers World, YouTube, Facebook, anything like that, then by all means get yourself smashing the like button so you can catch more action when we go forwards. And speaking of going forward, Jack, what are you expecting here today? We mentioned slipstream a fair amount and the sort of close times that we've seen both in practice and qualifying, but what are you expecting over the next half an hour?
A lot of action is probably the best way to put it, but it's going to be going into the unknown, as is the nature of the Sunday Drivers' Cup. And we go into this race, of course, with a slight bit of experience here at Silverstone, so maybe we'll see a similar sort of race. But we can see the grid up on screen now. Chaz Draycott takes pole position with a 2:10.355 for Sancho Simsport. Sander Borst is alongside in second. Andy Lovesey has got Ben Hicks for company on row 2. Then it's Patrick Borst alongside Roberto Garcia. Dean Catherwood and Cali Cavisto make up row 4. Michael Elliott and Sander Way round out your top top 10. Then it's Joseph Kivani, Matt Tempest round out the top 12. Ashley Gafael, Xavi Lopez, Peter Reed, Stephen Orell, James Austin, Amanullah Bacchus, Alvaro Rodriguez, Porter, Pedro Mariman Cladera, Rob Jackson, Mark Armstrong, Juan Benivez, and then it's Henrique Puttenstein in 24th. Then we have Timo Paya, Neil Armstrong, Victor Oliveira, David Geddes, Sven Dalemans, Arturo De Villa, Mackenzie Mann, Rene Ware, Jean-Louis Morgeau, and Eordnin Svetanov off colour is rounding out your grid. Expect to see him driving his way up through the order.
Yeah, it's, as you said, it's very odd to see him all the way back there, but we do have plenty of MX-5s, and that's such a fantastic camera shot, isn't it, Jack, with everybody flooding in. The only problem is we can't actually quite see pole sitter, so we'll just try and get a camera angle, or maybe we can see pole man Chaz Draycott as well as the rest of the field, and we'll probably have to settle for this camera angle for now and see how the top 10 get off the line. Round the corner here, it's lucky that they've got the lights coming up on their screen, because they wouldn't be able to see them on the pit board.
No, they definitely wouldn't be able to, but there you go. We can see 40 or 34 cars all lining up, ready to go for a 13-lap race here at Silverstone, and round 4 of the Sunday Drivers' Cup is away. It's an okay start from Chaz Draycott. Did get a bit more wheel spin than I expected, but he does get away. He does remain in the lead. Sander Bohr still alongside, looking to make moves for the lead around the outside, but look at that in the background. We've got Patrick Borst, Ben Hicks and Roberto Garcia all battling away. Chaz does remain in the lead, builds up that crucial gap before the hangar straight, but does so in a sideways manner. A bit of rallycross on the way as well. Still in the lead is Chaz, but we've got Sander Borst, Ben Hicks, Patrick Borst, Roberto Garcia, Andy Lovesey, Kalle Cavisto, Michael Ellett and Dean Catherwood trading positions in the background. Look at that, we're 3-4 wide almost into the Maggotts and Beckett section of the circuit. There's a couple of cars going skywards. That's Michael Ellett and I think Dean Catherwood came together there through Maggotts and Beckett's, and then onto the hangar straight. Look at that sea of MX-5s all putting their foot to the floor, changing up through the gearbox as we go onto the hangar straight for the first time, Jack.
Yeah, indeed, Chaz Draycott and Sander Borst, the only drivers out on the circuit pretty much in the top 10 that haven't changed positions. Unfortunately, Andrew Lovesey dropped back 3 places, and you can already see Chaz Draycott's lead has absolutely been ruined by the slipstream, isn't it? Sander Borst is right there with him now as they're coming down towards the end of the sort of the new Silverstone wing. Obviously, we don't actually have the wing in action here tonight as we're on the Legacy circuit, but this is sort of where it would be, and it looks like that Draycott and Borst are in for a bit of a doozy, aren't they, for the rest of this race?
Yeah, they will be glued together for the foreseeable future. Look at that, Chaz going defensive in towards the chicane. Of course, we've got the beautiful bridge corner, one of my favourite corners on the circuit on the way. So we'll see what Chaz can do to navigate through there with the attention of Sander Borst. Sander does have a look to the inside. There is a slight overlap, but you can see just how wide the circuit is. But we have had a change for the lead. Going into the stadium section of the circuit, Chaz has a little look up the inside to try and regain the lead. But Sander Borst, he's up at the front, Jack, and he's in that clean air. And Chaz at the moment, he's doing what he can, but he's got the attentions of Ben Hicks behind him, and then Sander Borst as well. So as much as he wants to get forward, he's got to keep an eye on his rearview mirror, because that's where all the attention is going to come from. We can see packs already starting to form. For example, in the lead pack, we've got Sander Borst, Chaz Draycott, Ben Hicks, Patrick Borst, Roberto Campos, Andrew Lovesey, Kalle Cavisto, and I think Sander Ware is rounding out that little pack with Joseph Kivani slowly getting in on the mix. But look at this now, Chaz looking to the outside of Copse Corner. He made it work at round 1. What can he do here at round 4? Can't quite get the move done on the way in. Does look for the cutback on the way out. He does slowly get the overspeed, runs slightly wide as well. He's got to be careful of these off tracks, because like we say, we've got 13 laps or 35 minutes, whichever comes first. Look at this now. There's now the overlap in towards Maggotts. A crossover to Beckett's we go. That's going to be a gut for Sander Borst, possibly a slowdown. What happens though? Chaz does get the inside. Of course, we've now got Chapel on the way as well. So what can he do around the outside? Chaz Draycott back in the lead, but he's back in the lead at the start of the hangar straight. Look at this now, Ben Hicks looking forward as well. So Sander Borst, Ben Hicks and Patrick Borst all looking for the lead.
It's stunning racing so far here at Silverstone, and already they're thinking about going 3 wide, aren't they? The iRacing Netherlands team potentially going and creating a sandwich with Ben Hicks in the middle. Hicks surviving, to be fair to him. I thought he was going to get squeezed in the middle there, but luckily these guys are far better than any of that nonsense. They know how to race to these guys, so it's all clean so far. That's not necessarily always, there we go, that's always not necessarily the motto of MX-5 racing though, and we've clearly seen a little bit there as rubbing is racing is probably what the motto is here at the Sunday Drivers Club. between Ben Hicks and Patrick Bors. But I tell you what, if it can create racing and drama like we've seen throughout the rest of the season, I'm all for it. As they're going, look at it, they're like flies swatting, trying to find a space as they fly down towards the legacy area. And by the looks of it, Sander and Chaz have now broken away, but this fight for 5th position is just heating up no end.
Yeah, it is indeed. Look at that. Andrew Lovesley does get elbowed wise, goes out onto the gravel. Can he get it slowed down before he rejoins the circuit? Does so safely, or as safely as possible. And like you say, Chaz Draycott, Sander Borst have built up that lead margin. Ben Hicks is doing what he can to stay on the coattails, but he's being hounded by Patrick Borst. Then it's Roberto Garcia trying to keep back all those masters behind him. For example, it's led by Kalle Kavisto, then Sander Werrell, Ashley Gaffale, Joseph Givney and Matt Tempest. And then we go back to Stephen Orell, who's trying to bridge that gap, which will make it, what, 10 for 4th place at the moment. Chaz Draycott setting the fastest lap of the race by some margin indeed as well, and that lead margin is only coming up as well, half a second clear of Sander Borst is Chaz, and then 1.2 seconds back is Ben Hicks. We've got a replay here. What happened to Neil Armstrong? Over-rotated by the looks of it. Slightly too eager on the throttle pedal, waits for the traffic to come through and then rejoins as safely as possible. Kalle Kavisto heading in towards Maggots and Beckett's now, and this is a very, very busy section of the circuit when you've got 10 cars all vying for position, trying to get through here as quickly as possible, carry the momentum. We've got a car off on the right-hand side of the circuit. Can't quite figure out who that is, because I think that might have been a lapped car.
Yeah, I think it was actually Dean Catherwoods, and just as the front lot have given us a moment's peace and being able to give you a breath, Jack, well, let's have a shout out to Sven Dalemans and Svetinov as well, the drivers with the most amount of positions gained. We said Svetinov was out of position all the way down in 31st. Well, he's up 13 places now, up to 21st, and by the looks of it, he's hunting down more, isn't he? He's done a really good job. He's maybe going to be cracking the top 20. But this battle, this is what I was saying before, isn't it? Even if the top 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 are separated by maybe a couple of tenths between each car, you can just dart yourself to the back of the field and find another cracking battle. And that's exactly what we got here as well. Svetinov almost looking defensive now as he's getting overtaken, I think. Is that Dean Catherwood who is making moves potentially? I don't think it is, because actually I think it's a lapped car trying to unlap himself. So that is the sort of obstacles you do get towards the back of the field.
Yeah, and we did look at this battle when it was, what, a 5-car battle, and it's suddenly separated into a 2 and a 3, because all this battling behind has let Pedro Marimon Cladera and Sven Dalemans just disappear into the distance, get into that clean air. Back up to the front we go now, just outside the top 10. We're looking at Matt Tempest, looking around the outside of Andrew Lovesley, washes out wide. He's left himself vulnerable to the Holy Cow Racing entry of Stephen Orell, who looks to the outside, and now he's left himself vulnerable to the 22 entry of Peter Reed. So Simtech at the moment trying to work together, but there is Andrew Lovesley in the number 2 Indian Motorsport machine heading on to tick lap number 4 in the book, and everybody's trading the fastest lap of the race. Roberto Garcia has currently got it with a 2:10.148. Chaz Draycott, Ben Hicks both running wide on the exit of turn 1, and it's still Chaz in the lead, with Sander Borst half a second back, but Sander is 1.2 seconds clear of Ben Hicks still. So at the moment, the lead battle I don't think is going to change for a little while. There is Kalle Kavisto still being hounded by Sander Werrell, also trying to do what he can to make inroads on the number 41 of Patrick Borst, and it's, dare I say it, it's slowly started to calm down.
Yeah, it's amazing. To be honest, I expected it to be a lot closer for a lot longer. However, what we can say is the slipstream is so heavy. Well, these cars are so heavily dependent on slipstream for fast times that realistically they should pretty much stick together. But as soon as you can get a tiny bit of a breakaway, which is maybe what we're seeing Chaz and Sander do at the right of the front, then that you do have an opportunity to work together and to pull away nicely. But these guys, I think they're going to fight. You know, I just had that feeling that maybe they think they've probably already got that gap and they want that that track position. Having said that, they're smart racers. Sander Borst, obviously in second place, will know how powerful the slipstream can be, and how if you can just hold it off and just stick in the second place for the last 2 laps maybe, he can then start a real charge on Chaz. And well, as we said, Chaz has got an experienced sim racing Dan McCauley in the chat and in his ear as well, so I'm sure they'll be discussing tactics and depending on what they want to do and depending how quick they think Sander is and maybe how much he is sandbagging.
Yeah, it's this is where having somebody in your ear and almost telling you what's happening behind you and what you've got to do to keep that gap where it is going to be so helpful. And we know, like you say, Sander Borst, he knows what he's doing in second and in first. He led for such a long time at Daytona. So he's definitely doing well there. Who's that going backwards? I think that was Neil Armstrong once again. And the replay on my screen is having quite the mare. You're going to have to talk us through it, Jack.
Sorry, it's just having a look at a few of the incidents on the opening lap between Alvaro Rodriguez, Porter, and just a few incidents that were right at the back of the field, and a couple of reasons why maybe a lot of drivers were in the pit lane. So a bit of a shame to see that kind of incident happen, but we do have to obviously give it its due. Yeah, that's the reason why we had about 5 or 6 drivers all in the pit lane after that opening lap. And I tell you what, there is action right ahead of this little battle here. Pedro Cladera and Michael Elliott going through the Maggots-Beckett section, getting very nice and heated. And all of a sudden, although we said that a few drivers are maybe spreading out slightly, it's not always the case. And in fact, this is why this is a race for the top 3, the final podium position, and also the race lead gap has come right down as well. So keep your eyes on both if you can.
Yeah, all this battling is just letting that lead duo escape. However, Sander Borst and Chaz have got to work together just to keep that gap with some air in between it. Roberto Garcia currently leading this 5-car train for the final step on the podium. He's being hounded by Ben Hicks, who's leading Kalle Kavisto, Patrick Borst and Sander Ware, just hanging on to the coattails of the iRacing Netherlands car. And like I said, all this battling is just letting them slowly disappear into the distance. So they've got to decide, as much as they want to race and they want that final step on the podium, they've got to work together. Or Roberto Garcia has got to find some pace, break that slipstream to Ben Hicks and see what he can do about making inroads on the lead. Just runs slightly wide there, I think, opening the track up as much as possible. However, that does open the door for Ben Hicks, who doesn't get the preferred run through there. And now we're seeing the number 19 of Roberto Garcia slowly start to get a bit of daylight between himself and Ben Hicks. So at the moment, this race is still going into the unknown. However, the leaders are just going into the distance. We're going on to lap 6 of the race already, Jack. And everybody is just deciding what position they want to be in. I don't think anybody wants 6th place at the moment, because look at this, Patrick Borst trying to get out of it and hand it off to Kalle Kavisto. But I can guarantee as soon as they swap, half a lap later, they'll be back in the same positions again.
Yeah, I think Sander Ware, who's currently in 7th, wouldn't mind taking that 6th place away. But Ashley Gaffale has had a bit of an off-track here. Now, he was in a very nice close battle by the looks of it with a teammate. So what's happened to Ashley here? He's had a couple of off-tracks in a row, which is why we cut to him. Oh, yeah. He went too hot into the left-hander, and then he ended up overstretching the exit for the right, and ended up, obviously, getting all kind of loose on the grass, and that is why he was facing the wrong way and has fallen from about 10th down to 19th.
Yeah, a massive loss there for himself. However, you can see this battle is just getting closer and closer again. You can see the draft effect playing its part. This time, however, it looks like Patrick Borst hasn't been able to get close enough, and it's given Kalle Kavisto a spur of confidence. A massive look to the inside of Ben Hicks there, heading into the chicane once again, and look what has happened. I said all Roberto Garcia needs to do is shake off the attentions of Ben Hicks, leave him to be eaten up by the cars behind, and that's exactly what happened to Roberto Garcia. He is in the clean air now. He might be catching little wisps of the draft from the cars in front. Now look, in front of Patrick Borst, a great shot riding on board with him. He's got the best seats in the house here. Ben Hicks and Kalle Kavisto almost side by side in towards the legacy section of the circuit. Over the curbs we go. And once again, it's just all about maximising your entry, braking as late as possible, but then not scrubbing any speed, maximising the exit. It's such a fine line that these drivers have got to drive around this Silverstone GP circuit. Look at all the alternating lines. Patrick Borst taking the shallow line in, looking for possibly the inside on Kalle Kavisto up the road. And at the moment, it's still 3 cars for 4th place, possibly even 4 if Sander Ware is still behind Patrick Borst, as I would expect. However, this is still leaving Chaz Draycott and Sander Borst to disappear into the distance. Look how far up the road they are now. Yeah, and in fact, Chaz has actually pulled a 6/10 gap from Sander, which we know will disappear within a lap. But considering there are only about 5 laps left, or 6 laps left, I think Chaz will be pretty happy with the race that he's currently performing on.
Two drivers that won't be too happy though, Michael Ellett and Ashley Gaffale. And Ashley, obviously, we saw with a little bit of an incident before. And by the looks of it, there you go, Michael Ellett and Gaffale just having another incident, shall we say. And it's not going quite the way of those two drivers right now, unfortunately. But we are seeing fantastic racing up and down the field. And actually, Michael Ellett is going toe-to-toe with another driver here of Mackenzie Mann. And, well, as I said before, anywhere you look, there'll be fast action. And looks like Mackenzie goes a little bit wide, and that lets Ellett go straight back through. And the recovery drive is from now.
Yeah, so the South African losing 13 places from his starting position. Look at this battle now up on the screen, and look what has happened. For the moment, for a little while, Patrick Borst was in 4th place, and in the space of half a lap, he's gone right the way down to 6th. He's not comfortable staying there, though. A big look up the inside of Ben Hicks. There's almost contact. There is contact. Pointing backwards is Kalle Kavisto. Very much the innocent party, just trying to defend that 4th place. Ben Hicks has to take to the scenery, rattling over the grass he goes. There is Patrick Borst back up into 4th place. Sander Ware has reaped the rewards from this. He's just sat in the wings, and he's been really patient in 7th place. He's now worked his way right the way up to 5th, and he's battling Patrick Borst now for position. Dean Catherwood and James Austin, I think, have had an incident as well, flashing up on the event viewer. So it's all go here. As soon as it started to calm down, Jacko, we've been put back in the driving seat, and we really just don't know where to look.
No, we'll have a look here, because it's straight up the inside, isn't it? And then if we go onto the roll bar of Ben Hicks, you can see he just went too far into the corner, didn't he? And I think that was because he was pushed through by one of the iRacing drivers, iRacing Netherlands drivers, sorry. So we'll have a quick look at that, see if we can get a little bit of a better camera angle. And yeah, you can just see there's no real room up there on the inside, Jack. I think we could both probably agree on that. There's a gap that is always closing and always closing far too fast for the drivers to get their car stopped. And that's unfortunate for, I think it was Ben Hicks who ended up getting turned around. No, it was Kavisto who ended up turning around, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I think the way to describe that move for position was probably optimistic. I think you can see there a big old hit for Dean Catherwood as well, in exactly the same part of the circuit. I think that was with James Austin, the Simtech driver. That oh no, it wasn't. Who was that that managed to collect him? Sorry, Dean Catherwood is the Simtech driver and being pushed around by James Austin in the Armstrong racing machine. So the pair of them coming together, it just seems this part of the circuit, everybody just starts to bottleneck together. And they're left with very little racing room to work with. And you could see there, Kalle Kavisto, like you say, very much the innocent party, couldn't really do much about that. Was looking to defend his position, 3 wide in towards Magnus and Beckes. That's never going to work. Everybody does manage to negotiate the corner without too much of an issue. Neil Armstrong on the outside, pushing the Holy Cow racing machine of Sven Dalemans, I think that is, in front. In fact, I think that might be a lapped car that he's trying to barge out of the way, as he has now lost a hell of a lot of time to Michael Ellett up the road. So for the moment, everybody is managing to stay as clean as possible. There is Jordanin Svetanov in the number 14 machine. A great run around the outside. Can he keep it off the grass? Doesn't carry the momentum that he wanted to. Does run out of real estate that he was expecting to use. Victor Oliveira looking for the late braking move around the outside in towards the chicane. Can he pull it off? Can he get it slowed down? And no, he can't, is the answer. Bouncing over the grass he goes. Rejoins as safely as possible. Jordanin Svetanov back up into 17th place, and I think that's going to be a major loss for Victor Oliveira, because look who's there again. Michael Ellett, the South African, once again picking up more places. So he's up, what now, 3 places from when we last looked at him, and he's just about managed to make it 4 places up. Well, I say that, and they're still side by side in towards bridge. 2 into 1 don't go, so they've got to decide now what's going to happen.
Yeah, and by the looks of it, Oliveira is on the inside and just about kept that going for now. And the reason why we actually shot back to Svetanov in the first place is not because I saw a fantastic battle going on. I wish it was that. But it's actually the fact that he's gained 17 positions. So the fact that he's in 17 places means he's half his grid position, which is a fantastic achievement, really. And he's not finished there, and neither is Michael Ellett. Maybe they can work together if they get close enough for the final 4 laps of this race to really push on and try and crack maybe the top 15. Bit of a big ask, though. It's a couple of seconds back from Dean Catherwood, who's currently caught that spot.
Yeah, so it seems like everybody once again is slowly starting to spread out. 4 drivers out at the bottom end of the order we can see there. There is Chaz Draycott. Look at that lead margin, 1.5 seconds now. And that's mainly because Sander Borst is now preoccupied with Roberto Garcia. Roberto is very much a formidable driver in these MX-5s, and he will look for every single piece of road that he has available to him. Now he'll cut over to the inside. That's very decisive driving from himself. Can he get the car slowed down? Just about, and does sneak up the inside. Sander Borst outbraked himself a little bit now, and has that let the cork out of the bottle, because now Chaz Draycott has nobody between himself and Roberto Garcia. Of course, there is an underlying rivalry between the pair of them, battling for the lead last time out at Tsukuba, now here at Silverstone. With what, 4 laps of the race remaining, this can only get closer. Now riding on board with Roberto Garcia, late on the brakes. You can see Sander Borst just go slightly too hot in towards the chicane. Roberto Garcia picks his point, picks his apex, and does get through in towards second place. Great driving from Roberto. Read the situation perfectly, and like I said, is that the cork out the bottle? Chaz Draycott with no more defence.
Yeah, and I'm just having a look at the previous times as well. Roberto was a full, well, I was going to say a full second, to be honest. But it was just 0.2 quicker than Chaz Draycott, which is quite a large margin, really, if you think about it, on a track that has proved that these drivers have been within hundreds of each other. So the fact that he's 0.2 quicker on the last lap is a big sort of indicator. Obviously, this lap coming up that they'll post won't be too much of a giveaway because he had to overtake Sander Borst, but we'll still have another quick look at it. And in fact, even though he had to overtake Sander Borst on that lap, he was dead tied pretty much with Chaz Draycott. I think there was half a hundredth in it or something like that, something ridiculous. So Garcia really has the pace to potentially cause a bit of an upset at the top of the order here. 3 laps to go, 2.5 second gap. We'll keep an eye on the time for you as we shoot back to Stephen Orell, who's made his way into the top 10. He gained 8 positions to 8th place, and has Ben Hicks ahead, who obviously had a little bit of an incident with Andrew, well, not with Andrew Lovesey, but and Andrew Lovesey in 6th position. Both of those drivers, 6th and 7th, Lovesey and Hicks, have lost 3 places from their gridding order. Unfortunately, Hicks was through contact. Lovesey just seemed to bog out on the green flag. If anybody remembers all the way back to when they were gridding up, the lights went out and Lovesey didn't seem to move.
Yeah, not the ideal start from Andy Lovesey in the Ignium Motorsport machine. Of course, he was originally a simulation. However, with the move over to Ignium Motorsport, he has got a lot of help in the way of teammates. Well, he did, until everybody seemed to more or less abandon him up at the top end of the order. He hasn't got any help at all up there, so he's flying solo at the moment, trying to fend off the attentions of Ben Hicks. Steve Orell more or less keeping him company, trying to follow along. So while there is quite the margin in between the pair of them, it just takes one little mistake. Maybe apply the power a little bit too early, brake, 10 meters too early. We've got a H20 car stricken on the inside of the circuit. Is that car destined for retirement? I'm not 100% sure who that is over to the right hand side of your screens there. However, it is just about moving in Arturo de Villa's case. What does he do? The Mexican driver, right the way down in 28th position, quite off colour for himself. However, he does get back moving. Let's hope he can remain out racing. Yeah,
we've just got a quick replay, maybe having a look at what happened to Arturo. I think he just hooked the curb. Yeah, hooked the curb and turned the car around. So, yeah, ended up parking, looking the wrong way, thinking, what on earth am I doing here? And then he realised that the steering rack doesn't quite have the turn that he needs to. So a little bit of a 3-point turn. Ruins his race, unfortunately, which is never what we like to see. Sven Dalemans has had an incident as well, and it looks like going side by side with the driver there. I'm not sure who that is, and ends up getting turned around as well. So a little bit too close. I think that was actually Matt Tempest, who was the driver he initially made contact with. So gutting for Sven, the driver who we know well in the SRW realms. And we can actually shoot back up to Joseph Keaveney, because I think that's Javier Lopez in the H20 esports car, giving a run for his money for the top 10.
It is indeed. Heading through Maggots and Beckett's, another hot spot for incidents this race, as we just saw. Helping Sven Dalemans around to point in the wrong way. Just narrowly avoiding Mackenzie Mann was Neil Armstrong after spinning on the exit of Chapel as well. But now look, there is Joseph Keaveney under pressure from Javier Lopez. Javier jumps over to the left-hand side of the circuit. It will be the outside for the next long right-hander. However, we have seen if you carry the momentum, you can get the position. There is contact. Both cars turn, what, 45 degrees in the middle of the road. That's going to be a big hit. The Simtech car of Matt Tempest left with nowhere to go. That car will be destined for retirement, missing a wheel, pulls over to the left-hand side of the circuit. I'm sure Xavier Lopez will follow suit, heading back to the pit lane. He does indeed. That was the biggest hit we've seen all race. And while the circuit is very wide, it just shows incidents are so easy to come by. You're left with nowhere to go. You're trying to chase the cars in front. One little mistake and you're left in the firing line without much to do, really. But back up to these battles, Jacko. We've got Ben Hicks still under intense pressure from Stephen Arell, and these guys have just been getting closer and closer and closer. They're now side by side in towards the stadium section of the circuit, and with what, 2 laps of the race remaining, they've got to decide who wants 7th place.
Yeah, I mean, it's all sort of pot luck at this rate, isn't it? Because drivers are flying in left, right and centre. With any luck, we won't see any incidents ending this particular battle early. But I think the reason why we're having so many incidents, really, is because Silverstone for these MX-5s is plenty of medium and high-speed corners. There's not an awful lot of braking zones. I mean, heavy braking zones where you could outbrake your opponent. So the 2 positions we've really seen them, obviously going towards the sort of Vale chicane, you could argue it is, where the new Silverstone wing and everything is. That's where we're seeing a lot of drivers flying up the inside and trying to outbrake each other. That's because it's one of the only places on the entire circuit that you can actually hope to outbrake someone. And therefore, it's one of the best overtaking opportunities. Through Maggots and Beckett's, it's never a sensible decision to try and go 2 or 3 wide through there, because everyone knows the sort of the one line that goes through Maggots and Beckett's, and unfortunately everybody wants to take that one line because it's easily the most important set of corners on this track, because it lets you get onto the hanger straight, and if you get a clean exit out of Chapel, then you can go straight onto the hanger straight, and you won't be bothered about the car behind unless the slipstream is that powerful, which doesn't seem to be as bad today as we were thinking. So yeah, heavy braking zones cause problems, especially at circuits that don't have many.
Yeah, absolutely. That is where you go for the position, because like you say, a lot of this circuit is flat out and there's no major braking zones to break up the flow of the circuit. So you've got to make sure when that opportunity presents itself, you're decisive and you let the driver know in front that you are coming through. You've almost got to do pretty much what Ayrton Senna did. He put the drivers in the position where if they don't move out the way, you're going to have a crash, and that is what you've got to do in the MX-5 Cup Series. Here is Patrick Borst with Sander Weyer all over the tail end of him. So it's iRacing Netherlands versus H20 Esports. Patrick Borst does have his teammate just up the road, Sander Borst, who was let slip a little bit, Roberto Garcia. So the lead gap is still, what, 1.8 seconds. So there's quite the margin. I think it's come too little too late for Roberto Garcia. However, don't leave that out because Chaz Draycott, it just takes one little mistake on this final lap just to bring Roberto Garcia back into contention. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, 0.3 quicker on the lap prior as Roberto Garcia. So he is reeling Chaz in, but with only 2 minutes, 10 seconds of the race to go, he has got to find something very, very special. Look at this now, Patrick Borst on the outside in towards Copse Corner. So Sander Weyer so keen to get up the inside, he nearly turns into the pit wall. So that really hasn't worked for the H20 driver, but they're only going to get closer because, like we've mentioned so many times, Jacko, and we've come so accustomed to it, the hanger straight's on the way, which does mean the draft assistance will be available. So it's all about this run through Maggots and Beckett's and then through Chapel. What can Sander Weyer do about making inroads on Patrick Borst's 4th place? Yeah,
we'll keep an eye on this until we cut, obviously, to our race leader. We are on the white flag lap now, so it will be the checkered flag next time round. And obviously, we want to keep an eye out on the race leader, who we haven't really seen that much in the second half of this race. But on the hanger straight now, it looks like Sander Weyer's going up the inside. No, a defensive move by Patrick Borst means Sander has to go round the outside through Stowe, and it's going to be a fantastic move if he pulls it off. He's early on the power. How have they gotten out of there clean and alive? But it looks like they're going down towards the stadium section and the Vale sort of chicane, and it looks like the Borst has, Patrick Borst has that position safe, and Andrew Lovesea's coming to knock and see if there's any leftovers that he can mop up. But we have to look and give credit to our commentary fellow Chaz Draycott as well. Obviously, he's got the tribute on his car, and it'll mean an awful lot, just like Ed says in the chat, to sort of win with this livery, and he's done pretty much everything right, hasn't he? Qualified on pole position. He's led from the front. He doesn't look like he's really put too many steps wrong And as long as he can get through Brooklands and Luffield, he's going to have this one sealed out.
Yeah, he will indeed. So through the final corner, for the final time, comes Chaz Draycott and Zancho Simsport. And after the sad news yesterday, like you say, this is going to mean so much to Chaz. And I can guarantee he will almost be brought to tears on his stream. But round 4 of the Sunday Drivers' Cup Series is won by Chaz Draycott. Roberto Garcia comes across the line in second place. Sander Borst rounds out your podium, and it's 4 for the final spot in the top 5. Patrick Borst in 4th, Sander Werrell in 5th, Andy Lovesey comes home in 6th, then it's Stephen Arell 7th, Ben Hicks in 8th. Those two traded positions on the final lap. Peter Reid comes across the line in 9th, and Joseph Kiveny will round out your top 10, but well done Chaz Draycott, bold position and the eventual win, and I can guarantee that one is going to be dedicated to his commentary idol, Murray Walker. Through the final corner we go for a lot of these drivers. Of course, we do still have a race going on, Jacko. Mackenzie Mann trying everything he can to fend off the attentions of Sven Dailmans, and it just shows this race really isn't decided until we get to the line.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the time, we are definitely sort of, as soon as the top 10 come across the line, we sort of cut away and wait for the results to come up on our screen. But to be honest, when you look down on your timing tower and you're seeing literally half a tenth between drivers, you got to go and give them their due, haven't you? And it was fantastic racing. Unfortunately, we actually had Svetanov have an incident right at the final lap. Oh, he's been bumped around after he made up so many positions. I think he was up to about 15th place. He did end up coming across the line. Not too far away, as you can see. He did manage to get the car turned around, and he's in a bit of clean air now. But that's the last thing you want to do, isn't it? Right at the end of a 35-minute race like that, at the end of a Sunday night, is to get turned around, unfortunately. But as most of the cars are coming across the line, like you said, Chaz, it'll feel all the sweeter knowing he's got the name on the side of the car that obviously he's grown up watching and inspired to get him into commentary in the first place. And he had some pretty big news as well on the same, I think the day before as well, about how Chaz's commentary career has moved on. So I'm sure we'll ask him a little bit more about that. But at the moment, Roberto Campos, he's probably going to extend his championship lead thanks to the fact that he came into that second place. But Jack, you can take us through the full rundown of the race.
Thank you very much, Jacko. Chaz Draycott does take the win, as previously mentioned, for Zancho Simsport. 1.8 seconds clear at the line from Roberto Campos in second. Sander Borst rounds out your podium for iRacing Netherlands. Another good performance from himself. Patrick Borst finishes in 4th. Sander Ware in 5th. Andy Lovesey in 6th. Stephen Arell finishes in 7th. 8th was Ben Hicks. Peter Reid in 9th. And Joseph Kiveny rounds out your top 10. Then it was Dean Catherwood, Amanolo Bacchus, Pedro Marimon Cladera, James Austin, Michael Elliott, Victor Oliveira, as I get rudely interrupted by the pit klaxon in the background, Ashley Gafael, and again, Ionni Svetanov finishes in 18th place. Then I'm sure we've got the next few on the way. We do indeed. Neil Armstrong in 19th, Mackenzie Mann in 20th, Sven Dailmans hounding the car in front of the line to finish 21st, Calais Cavisto 22nd. So unlucky for Calais, he was looking so good during the race, and it just all fell apart. Matt Tempest in 23rd, Javier Lopez in 24th, Alvaro Rodriguez Porta in 25th, Dave Geddes 26th, Arturo Davia in 27th, Timo Pyer in 28th, and I think we've just got a few more to go, including a few retirements to cover off. And then it's Jean-Louis Mauger in 29th, Neil Armstrong in 30th, Rob Jackson in 31st, Juan Benavides in 32nd, pardon me, Enrico Puttenstein in 33rd, and Rene Ware didn't take to the grid. Neither did I think Enrico Puttenstein. And I've just had a quick look over at Chaz's stream on Twitch, and he has indeed been brought to tears. So it does show how much it meant to him, and I can guarantee we will struggle to get an interview with him because it just shows how much this meant. And as it says at the bottom of the screen, this one's for Murray.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully, he's ever the professional. Is Chaz. He'll be jumping into the interview waiting room, hopefully sooner rather than later, fingers crossed. And in fact, as I say that, Jack, I think you can drag him in, so let's have a chat if he can, is capable of such a thing, to our commentary teammate and also race Victor. Take it away, Jack.
Chaz Draycott, welcome to the commentary booth on a slightly different occasion to what we're used to, and I can imagine this is going to be one of the best, but also one of the hardest interviews you've ever had to do. Well done on the win, and I'm sure you're absolutely delighted, and it means the world to you.
Yeah, the way we set out to do that tonight, with delivery and everything, and it's been a hard 2 days, as everybody will have known. But yeah, I just needed that tonight. That was special. That one means a lot, And I was just saying to Dan then, Dan McCauley was an incredible spotter again tonight, and he kept my head on all the way through that. My head nearly fell off near the end because Roberto was catching so much, but yeah, we needed that for Murray tonight. A little MX-5 win on a simulator by someone he's never met. If in retrospect it might not mean much, but he's done a hell of a lot to inspire me and you guys as well, and everybody here at Sim Racers World TV for our careers. And yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad to have lost Murray. He was a star, just not as I said, not just for people that enjoyed Formula One or motorsport or commentating. It's a loss to the world, and he was just an unbelievable human being, and it means a hell of a lot to win tonight. So yeah, that was a big one. That, and another win as well for Silverstone Composites, Sancho sponsor at their home track. So yeah, big up the boys.
It couldn't have gone any better for you this evening. You put it on pole. You didn't quite get the fastest lap, but that just falls into insignificance when you think about what you achieved. I think you actually almost led every single lap that race. And of course, we've done it at Silverstone, the home of British motorsport. Of course, the BRDC clubhouse here. Of course, Murray was a member of the BRDC as well. So
yeah,
you couldn't have done it on any better circumstances. And of course, as much as I don't want to shy away from the subject, we do have a race in 3 weeks' time. What are we thinking going into that? Of course, it's been an emotional rollercoaster the past couple of weeks with, of course, the big news with yourself and Euro Clio Cup, and of course the sad news yesterday, which I don't want to dwell on. But then, of course, the great win today. It's been quite an eventful week, and I'm sure you're glad to put it behind you. But 3 weeks' time, is that on your mind, or are you just thinking, let's enjoy it, let's have a week just to calm down and then see what we're like?
I think we all need time to calm down, don't we? It's been crazy. One day I announce, the biggest step in my career, and then the man that inspired me to go chasing that career has left us. It's a very contrasting days, but yeah, 3 weeks from now, and that journey starts. I'll be in France 3 weeks today. I don't know if I'll be home in time, but yeah, I'll be at Nogaro commentating on the Clio Cup Europe and beginning that journey. So I think there's 4 rounds this season I'm not going to compete in going forward from now. So there's 4 drop rounds in the championship. So I think I'm going to drop 5, maybe 6, I think, by the end. So I need to keep coming back and winning. I need to make the most of them.
I'm sure you'll make some definite inroads on that, and I'm shocked that you want to skip a Sunday Drivers' Cup round to go and commentate in France on Euro Clio Cup. I mean, come
got
on,
the priorities all wrong.
Yeah, priorities are upside down. But I'm going to hand you over to Jacko because I'm sure he's got a couple of questions for you as well. But well done for tonight, and
thank you, mate. Thank you.
yeah, you've done a brilliant job.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, Chaz, obviously, it means a lot to you, doesn't it? But we'll try and focus on a few of the sort of the positives of the Clio Cup. I mean, everyone who's watching this not necessarily sort of clued up on maybe all your news. So, give us a bit of a rundown of what you're going to be involved in for this year in real life commentary, I guess, before we sort of let you get away and enjoy the win.
Well, some people that may have heard me before on the channel, I've commentated on sim racing. I started May 2018 or April. It was May 2018. Commentated on sim racing until my first real world event. That was a 24-hour karting event at Buckmore Park in April 2019. Last year, 2020, I got my own series, Club Racing in the UK. Sports 2000 have been amazing and supportive of getting me on there. Early on in lockdown, I became quite friendly with David Addison, the BTCC commentator from ITV4. He's an absolutely wonderful man. He's fantastically funny, incredible dry sense of humor, and he loves a Belgian beer. So I just owe him Belgian beers for everything that he's done for me. He's helped my career unbelievable amounts as well. David got me the Nürburgring 24-hour gig in real life just last year, which was just an incredible weekend, and I thank him for that. But this year, he's helped orchestrate me being the Clio Cup Europe commentator for 2021. So I'm going to be going all over Europe to France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Austria, and even the Hungaroring, covering Clio Cup racing in the real world. And it's a dream come true, mate. Really is. So yeah, the year's going to be a good one. I'm gutted I'm not going to be around for all of this though, because this league is so much fun. It is so much fun. The guys are all phenomenal. You know, the chat behind the scenes and how competitive it gets on track as well. It's just the best league I've raced in. I love it.
Well, it almost. I mean, to be fair, I think everybody can appreciate why you might want to go and jet set off to France and the likes. But yeah, well, we'll let you go off and enjoy the evening.
Thank you, mate.
Chaz, congratulations on the win. Is there anybody like to give a shout out? You already did Silverstone competence, but you can give him another shout out if you want to.
Yeah, Zancho for having me. You know, the guys have. I'm not the most sort of prominent or, you know, I'm not always the most apparent person in the team. You know, I'm not always involved in everything, but they're all such a great laugh. You know, everybody's so involved and they have such an incredible team dynamic on. It's so friendly. So all the guys there, Simply Race as well. Mike Yao is an absolute known hero. Silverstone Composites as well. They always support the team. And to be honest, you boys as well. It's great to see you guys doing such a mega job after the first season that we had with these guys. And obviously, deep condolences to everybody around Murray Walker and obviously his family as well, his wife Elizabeth, and obviously a big thanks to Murray for everything he's done for the sport and us and my career.
Well, very well done, Chaz, and obviously we echo the sentiments. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you get off and enjoy that victory and probably get off to bed before you wake up to start streaming or to start scheduling more streams. But yeah, thanks very much, Chaz.
Thanks very much, Jack. Cheers, boys.
And that was Chaz Draycott, Jack. Now, we do have two other drivers, both the Sanders, in the wings. So we'll let you bring one of them in. You can choose who goes first.
Right, I think, obviously, we've got the choice. I'm going to bring in Mr. Sanderware. So welcome to the commentary box, Sanderware. And of course, it was an eventful night for you tonight. You hounded Patrick Borst to the line, and you and your teammates, you were a flood up and down the field. But you came out victor in terms of the team, and it looked like great fun out there. Describe it from your perspective.
Yeah, it was great fun. It was great fun. It was also necessary for my own ego, because I had some horrendous first races, and I think I'm in 30th in the championship, so I needed a bit of a result, and my tactic was just, don't get involved in anything, just wait it out. I was quick in practice. I was quick. I had a bit of a disappointing qualifying, but well, starting in the top 10 is also always okay, and then I just hoped things would just the floodgates would open in front of me, and that was what happened. So yeah, good race.
Yeah, it seemed like that was the case. I think it was Michael Elliott and Ashley Gaffale, or Michael Elliott and Andy Lubsey in front of you battling it away, and we were saying you've got the best seats in the house. You're watching everything unfold in front of you, and if something were to go wrong, you'll go through and pick up the places, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. And then you were let onto the tail end of Roberto Garcia, and I'm sure you did everything in your power just to catch onto the tail end of him. But it seemed like, yeah, you did everything you needed to do. And of course, I think it was last season you ended up getting the win here at Silverstone. So of course, like you say, it must fuel the ego slightly as well. And 3 weeks' time, I think it's Lime Rock Park on the calendar. How are you feeling? How are you feeling heading into that? I think it's a circuit, some love and some hate. What's your perspective on that one?
Well, it is Summit Point on the calendar.
Summit Point, that's the one.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to correct you, but I also didn't get the win in Silverstone. I did once. I did once win in Jefferson Summit Point Raceway in 2019. So last year I told you guys that I needed a podium in Silverstone. Also didn't get it, and in the end I got my podiums in Oran Park and in Lime Rock. But yeah, my win is way back, and next race in Summit Point. That's another, a classic track in iRacing for the MX-5, and yeah, probably feeling hopeful, as hopeful as I did today. But then there's always, there's some quick guys in here now, and yeah, I have no aspirations that I'm going to win anything. But you never know, podium, you never know.
Well, I'm sure if you set your sights high, you will definitely deliver. And of course, like you say, with it being a Summit Point, I think you said it was the Jefferson layout. That's going to be a tricky one because it seems like you've got obviously the straights, which will spread the field out. But if you end up with a full grid of 35, 40 cars, that's going to be an incredibly busy circuit. So, are you aiming for something?
It is the normal raceway. It's the normal raceway, but the win that I took in 2019 was in the Jefferson when we were still only 16 cars on the grid. So, but with this pack of cars, we will do, of course, the full layout, and we won't go back to Jefferson this season.
Well, of course, like you say, you are on the longer layout, so I'm sure that will help the sizable grid we have on show. But you've still got the tight, twisty section of the circuit. So, are you expecting a bit more door-to-door action and hopefully do what you did today, just stay out of trouble and see where you end up?
Yeah, I think that should be my tactic for the rest of for all the races. Actually, just I normally tend to attract incidents, so I think they're not always my fault. They're almost never my fault, but they always come to me. So there's probably also some sort of fault in there then. But yeah, I need to just stay out of trouble. I think that today proved that is the best way to go.
Well, let's hope you do just that in 3 weeks' time at round 5. But as per the script, as per the usual, before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live on Sim Racers World TV?
Well, as always, you guys, mainly for the broadcasts and for all the preparation that is done during the 3 weeks that we have in between. And yeah, just a lot of fun. And thanks to all the guys for joining every week.
No worries. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, and well done on rounding out the top 5 this evening.
Okay, thanks, mate.
That was Sander Ware there in the commentary box. Just for a quick little interview, we do have the other Sander available to us, so let's bring Sander Borst in. So Sander Borst, welcome to the commentary box. Well done on P3, of course. Very hard fought. You were battling for the lead at one point, and of course, you had Chaz Dracar all over your rear bumper for a lap or two, and then you ended up swapping positions. What do you think was the difference between the pair of you this evening? Because it seemed like once he was back in front, he just bridged that gap. What was the differing factor?
I made a couple of mistakes, a couple of laps, and it was a shame.
Yeah, it looked like it was very hard fought, and of course you ended up crossing the line in front of your teammate Patrick. But altogether, that's P3 and P4 for iRacing Netherlands, so that will massively help the team standings. Of course, you are currently second in the team standings, and Fast Cars Go Bang are just up the road. But you finished ahead of FCGB this evening, so I'm not sure whether the championship is something you think about very often, but that's going to stand you in good stead.
I would take a good point for the team and for the championship for me. I'm now third, I think.
Yeah, of course you are. You were fourth in the championship going into this round, but I'm sure that will, like you say, this evening it's going to massively help your championship intentions. Bearing in mind Louis Correa and Ben Hicks finished behind you this evening. We go to Summit Point in 3 weeks' time, as I was corrected by Sander Ware for round 5. A circuit you like, a circuit you hate? Tell us what you think of that layout.
Circuit I like. I have to do a couple of the times racing there with the Mazda. It's a great track.
Yeah, it's I found it's one of those circuits that you almost love it or you hate it, and of course it's broken up with that back section. So you've got to think about the long run, because you can do all of the testing you like and get that time down. But of course, if you've got 34 cars chasing you through that middle section of the circuit, what do you think that the complexion of the race will be? Busy or maybe slightly quiet if everybody nudges each other off? What do you think is gonna happen in 3 weeks' time?
I think it's very busy on the track. Same as at Tsukuba. It was very busy on the track, but I like it.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And like I said, obviously, well done for P3 tonight, and thank you for talking us through what you think is going to happen in 3 weeks' time. But as per the usual, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while we're still on stream?
My wife. I was a little bit quiet, but the kids are sleeping, and yeah, I think everyone, yeah, it's great to do this.
Great stuff. Well, even under the go on, carry on. Oh, well, even under all the pressure of sleeping children and trying to stay as quiet as possible, you did incredibly well to finish on the podium. So once again, well done on P3 this evening, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time at Summit Point.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you next time.
Bye bye. That was Sander Borst there, a man of few words, but I've got to say he passed his message very clearly, of course, with finishing P3 this evening. And Jack out. We're at that time again. We've got to say goodbye.
Yeah, and we do, and we're off to Summit Point. If you didn't know that before the interviews, you do now. In 3 weeks' time, so by all means keep it pinned to wherever you're watching this from. Sunday Drivers Cup, Facebook, whether it's Sim Racers World, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, anything. Basically, keep it pinned. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. We'll join you in 3 weeks, Jack. And, we say this at the end of every broadcast. It's always becoming a little bit of a tradition, but it's far too long, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If this was every week, I would still probably loathe the week's gap in between the races, because you just cannot find action like it anywhere else. And like you say, it's almost rookie levels of performance out of the cars. The drivers, wow, oh my god, you've got the driving standards of almost a pro series, because you see them working together and moving the cars underneath them, that they go so in depth with what they can do in testing, but obviously they're working with what is basically rookie equipment, and they do so brilliantly. And we're never short of action. So like you say, 3 weeks is just far too long. And Summit Point, a circuit I'm quite looking forward to seeing how 34 Mazda MX-5s, possibly more, negotiate that circuit. But annoyingly, we've got quite the wait.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be dull. So make sure, as I said before, you keep it pinned to Sim Racers World or Sunday Drivers Club. My name's been Jack Oliphant. Alongside me has been Jack Werrell. It's been a fantastic evening here. Emotional for so many reasons, but brilliant racing nonetheless. We'll see you in 3 weeks' time. See you later.